What if your pursuit of wealth feels like chasing a fleeting dream, leaving you stuck in financial stagnation despite your efforts? What if you lack the clarity and strategy to turn your hard work into lasting prosperity? The Money Code. Become a Millionaire with the Ancient Jewish Code by H.W. Charles addresses these problems by revealing time-tested principles from Jewish texts that transform your mindset and actions toward wealth building. Readers struggling with ineffective financial habits or a scarcity mindset must read this book to unlock practical, wisdom-driven steps, such as disciplined work, strategic investing, and generous giving, that promise not just wealth, but a purposeful life. Dive into this book to discover how to align your efforts with universal laws for lasting success. Audiobook Summary: The Money Code. Become a Millionaire with the Ancient Jewish Code by H.W. Charles. Introduction: Unlocking the Ancient Secrets of Wealth. Imagine a world where wealth isn't just a dream, but a promise rooted in ancient wisdom, preserved through centuries, and practiced by a people who have consistently risen to the pinnacle of success. This is the premise of the Money Code. Become a Millionaire with the Ancient Jewish Code by H.W. Charles. In this book, Charles unveils what he calls the Money Code, a set of principles derived from Jewish religious texts like the Tanakh and Talmud, which have guided Jewish people to remarkable financial success for generations. This isn't a book about religion in the traditional sense. It's a roadmap to prosperity, accessible to anyone willing to embrace its teachings, regardless of faith or background. Over the next 40 minutes, we'll dive deep into the 7 chapters of this transformative work, exploring how wisdom, tradition, work, investing, law, tithing, and charity form the pillars of this ancient code for wealth. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Wisdom, the foundation of wealth. The journey to wealth, Charles starts not with money, but with wisdom. The Tanakh, the Jewish Bible, declares, "Length of days is in her right hand. In her left hand are riches and honor." The Talmud decodes this. Through obtaining wisdom, he will obtain wealth. Wisdom, Charles explains, is the practical application of knowledge, the ability to discern what is true, right, and lasting. It's not enough to know facts. A wise person applies knowledge to live well and succeed. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast treasure map, not one marked with gold or jewels, but with something far more valuable: wisdom. In the Money Code, become a millionaire with the Ancient Jewish Code. H.W. Charles begins his journey into the ancient Jewish principles of wealth with a bold assertion: wisdom, not money, is the true foundation of prosperity. The Tanakh, the Jewish Bible, proclaims, "Length of days is in her wisdom's right hand. In her left hand are riches and honor." The Talmud, a cornerstone of Jewish thought, decodes this verse with clarity. Through obtaining wisdom, he will obtain wealth. This is the heart of Chapter 1, a call to shift your focus from chasing dollars to cultivating the practical, discerning wisdom that naturally attracts abundance. Let's dive into this ancient code, explore its examples, and uncover how it can transform your life. Charles starts with a figure who embodies this principle: King Solomon, the wisest and wealthiest man of his era. The Tanakh tells us Solomon didn't pray for riches or power. He asked God for an understanding heart. His humility and desire for wisdom moved God to grant him not only unparalleled wisdom, but also riches and honor greater than that of any other king. Solomon's story is a powerful example. When you prioritize wisdom, wealth follows as a natural consequence. Imagine Solomon in his prime, ruling Jerusalem, his temple gleaming under the sun, his coffers overflowing, not because he chased gold, but because he sought the insight to govern justly and make sound decisions. His life illustrates the Tanakh's promise: by your wisdom and discernment, you have acquired wealth. But what exactly is wisdom? Charles defines it as the ability to apply knowledge practically, to discern what is true, right, and lasting. It's not just accumulating facts. Many knowledgeable people lack wisdom. A scholar might know every economic theory, but fail to manage their finances. Wisdom, Charles explains, is the bridge between knowing and doing. The Tanakh underscores this. Using a dull axe requires great strength, so sharpen the blade. That's the value of wisdom. It helps you succeed. Think of a carpenter struggling with a blunt tool. Wisdom is the act of sharpening it, making work efficient and effective. It's the entrepreneur who learns from a failed venture, pivots, and builds a thriving business. Wisdom brings not just wealth but protection, as the Tithe notes. To a wise man, wisdom is better protection than 10 rulers in a city. Charles draws on philosophical voices to deepen this idea. Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, described wisdom as deliberating well about what leads to a good life, not just health or wealth, but overall flourishing. John Kekes, a modern philosopher, echoes this, saying a wise person constructs a pattern for living well amidst life's challenges. Robert Nozick adds that wisdom helps us navigate human predicaments, avoiding pitfalls and seizing opportunities. These thinkers align with the Jewish tradition. Wisdom is about living intentionally, making choices that align with long-term success. So, how do we cultivate this wealth-generating wisdom? Charles offers 3 key practices, each rooted in Jewish teachings and illustrated with vivid examples. First, embrace humility. The Tithe warns, first comes pride, then disgrace, but with the humble is wisdom. Humility makes you teachable. Consider a young Jewish scholar in a yeshiva, listening intently to his rabbi, then learning from his peers, and even gleaning insights from his students. The Talmud captures this. Much have I learned from my masters, and more from colleagues than from my masters, and from my disciples the most. Humility opens your eyes to wisdom everywhere, even in unexpected places. Imagine a CEO who learns a game-changing marketing strategy from an intern because she's humble enough to listen. Second, commit to study. Jewish tradition reveres books as sacred, with the Torah and Talmud as the ultimate sources of wisdom. Charles quotes Samuel ibn Tibbon, a Jewish philosopher who called his library his best treasure and bookshelves his most beautiful pleasure gardens. Jews treat books with such respect that they're buried rather than discarded. The Talmud advises, "What must a man do that he may become wise? Let him engage much in study." Charles emphasizes focused study, master one subject deeply rather than dabbling in many. The Tithe reinforces this. Keep this book of the Torah on your lips and meditate on it day and night. Then your undertakings will prosper. Picture a Jewish merchant in medieval Europe, poring over the Talmud each evening, not just for spiritual growth, but to sharpen his business acumen. Today, this might look like dedicating an hour daily to studying finance, coding, or leadership, becoming an expert in your field. Charles highlights the Jewish practice of reviewing knowledge repeatedly. The Shema, a set of Torah verses, is recited twice daily, embedding wisdom in the mind. Sages would repeat insights 40 times, or a vital idea 101 times, to internalize it. Imagine an investor memorizing market trends, or a writer reciting key storytelling principles. Repetition builds mastery. Charles also notes the Jewish emphasis on studying the Torah and Talmud, which are not just religious texts but the foundation of our literature, our language, and our history, as Rav Zer puts it. The Talmud even suggests that studying under one teacher brings wealth and blessings. Third, value time as your most precious asset. Jews understand that time, unlike money, cannot be recovered. Charles challenges us. If you had 1 month to live, how would you spend your time? For Jews, time is invested in acquiring wisdom, building wealth, or serving others. The Tithe warns against wasting time. When people fall down, don't they get up again? When they discover they're on the wrong road, don't they turn back? Consider a modern example. A Jewish entrepreneur who rises early to study market trends, works diligently, and gives to charity, maximizing every hour. Contrast this with someone who spends hours on mindless entertainment, squandering their potential. Zig Ziglar's quip resonates here. Rich people have small TVs and big libraries, and poor people have small libraries and big TVs. Charles also addresses the intellectual prowess of Jews, often attributed to their emphasis on study. Studies cited in the book estimate the average IQ of American and British Jews at 110, significantly above the general population's average of 100. This isn't genetic, Charles argues, but cultural. Jewish parents foster curiosity, encouraging children to ask how and why, nurturing critical thinking. The Talmud's rigorous debates hone analytical skills, preparing Jews for success in fields like science, finance, and law. Albert Einstein, a Jewish icon, embodied this. His lifelong pursuit of knowledge led to revolutionary discoveries and wealth. As he said, "Wisdom is not a product of schooling, but of the lifelong attempt to acquire it." For the religious, Charles suggests praying for wisdom, following Solomon's example. The Talmud advises, "Let them pray for mercy from him, to whom is the wisdom." For non-religious readers, he recommends affirmative prayer, focusing on positive outcomes, like envisioning yourself as wise and prosperous. This aligns with Rabbi Morris Lichtenstein's concept of scientific prayer, which seeks personal benefits without requiring belief in a supernatural God. The chapter's Take Action section provides practical steps to apply this wisdom. First, pray for wisdom, using resources like postoperator.org to focus your intentions. Second, study the Talmud through accessible platforms like come-and-here.com, diving into its rich insights. Third, explore wisdom literature at sites like jewish-wisdom.com or sacred-text.com. These steps transform abstract principles into daily habits. Let's consider a modern example to bring this to life. Imagine Sarah, a young professional struggling to advance in her career. She's knowledgeable but feels stuck, her efforts yielding little financial gain. Inspired by the money code, she adopts a humble mindset, seeking mentorship from colleagues and even junior team members. She commits to studying one subject, digital marketing, spending an hour each evening reading books and taking online courses. She repeats key concepts aloud, embedding them in her mind. She also prioritizes her time, cutting out social media scrolling to focus on skill building. Over months, Sarah's expertise grows, earning her a promotion and a side hustle that boosts her income. Her story mirrors Solomon's. By seeking wisdom, she unlocks wealth. Charles warns against chasing wealth directly, as it can lead to disappointment. The Tanakh cautions, don't exhaust yourself in pursuit of wealth. Be smart enough to desist. Wisdom, not greed, is the path to lasting prosperity. The chapter closes with a reminder, knowledge without action is useless. The Take Action steps are your blueprint to start this journey, whether through prayer, study, or time management. Chapter 2. Tradition, the cultural blueprint for success. Charles begins by highlighting the historical wealth of Jewish patriarchs like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Solomon. The Tanakh portrays their riches as a divine blessing, a reward for their fidelity to God's covenant. Abraham, for instance, was a wealthy nomad who used his resources to help others, as noted by Rabbi Yehiel ben Yekutiel in Malat Hamid. Solomon, the builder of Jerusalem's first temple, amassed unparalleled wealth not by chasing gold, but by living in alignment with God's laws. These stories set the stage. In Jewish tradition, wealth is not just a material goal but a sign of divine favor, earned through obedience to the Torah's teachings. At the core of this tradition is a cultural ethos that prioritizes education, occupational success, and wealth accumulation. Charles cites ethnicity and family therapy, which states, "Success is so vitally important to the Jewish family ethos that we can hardly overemphasize it." Jewish parents instill in their children a drive for high-income careers. Think doctors, lawyers, or entrepreneurs, and a knack for prudent investing. Historian Stefan Thernstrom reinforces this, attributing Jewish achievements to cultural values transmitted from generation to generation over a very long time. Picture a Jewish family in Brooklyn, where parents encourage their child to study medicine, not just for prestige, but to secure a prosperous future. This isn't mere ambition. It's a tradition rooted in the belief that wealth enables one to live fully and give generously. The Tanakh frames wealth as a gift from God. Everyone to whom God has given riches and wealth, along with the power to enjoy it, this is a gift of God. Unlike some religious groups that prioritize the afterlife or view poverty as virtuous, Jews see wealth as a blessing to be embraced. The Tanakh promises, if they listen and obey God, they will be blessed with prosperity throughout their lives. This belief is reinforced by the Torah's 613 commandments, mitzvot, which Charles describes as a roadmap to blessings. For example, Deuteronomy 6 verse 7 commands Jews to teach the Torah diligently to their children, ensuring its values endure. Rabbi Isaac ben Eliakim's advice captures this. Reward children for studying Torah, as it aligns them with God's will. A powerful element of Jewish tradition is the belief that Jews are God's chosen people, a concept ingrained from childhood. The Tanakh declares, "If you keep the commands of the Lord, God will raise you high above all the nations on earth." This isn't arrogance, but a motivating conviction, as Henry David Thoreau noted. It is what a man thinks of himself that really determines his fate. Imagine a young Jewish entrepreneur, fueled by this belief, launching a tech startup with confidence that they're destined for greatness. This mindset, Charles argues, drives Jews to excel in fields like science, Albert Einstein, psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, and business, Larry Ellison, worth $28 billion. Charles contrasts Jewish attitudes with those of other groups, particularly conservative Protestants, who, according to Lisa Keister's study, accumulate less wealth due to lower educational attainment and a view of poverty as virtuous. He addresses a common Christian misconception, that Jesus was poor and thus poverty is noble. Charles clarifies that Jesus had money managed by Judas and performed miracles of abundance, like feeding 5,000 people. The issue, he explains, is attachment to possessions, not wealth itself. The Tanakh warns, the ruin of the poor is their poverty, and the Talmud adds, poverty in one's home is worse than 50 plagues. Jews view poverty as a burden that limits one's ability to help others or fulfill potential. The chapter also tackles negative stereotypes about money. Phrases like, money is the root of all evil, or rich people are dishonest, are debunked. Charles emphasizes that money is neutral, a tool for good or ill depending on its use. The Tanakh advises, the blessing of the Lord brings wealth, and he adds no trouble to it. Consider the Hasidic philosophy. Poverty causes transgression. A poor person might turn to crime out of desperation, but wealth, used rightly, feeds, shelters, and clothes others. Charles shares the story of Dr. C. Thomas Anderson, who helped over 100 people become millionaires by applying biblical wisdom, showing that wealth, when pursued ethically, aligns with divine purpose. The Jewish emphasis on Torah study is a practical example of tradition in action. The Talmud says, study Torah again and again, for everything is contained in it. Charles describes how Jewish children are taught to read and observe the Torah, embedding its laws into their lives. This discipline translates into real-world success. For instance, a Jewish lawyer might attribute their analytical skills to years of debating Talmudic texts in a yeshiva. The Talmud also warns, he who fulfills the Torah in poverty shall in the end fulfill it in wealth, suggesting that adherence to tradition transforms hardship into prosperity. The Take Action section offers concrete steps to apply this blueprint. First, reprogram your subconscious mind to embrace wealth, using resources like mindreality.com. Second, study the Torah through platforms like mechin-mamre.org or breslov.com. Third, deepen your understanding of Judaism via sites like Chabad.org or JewFAQ.org. Finally, set clear financial goals using tools like lifetick.com. These steps bridge ancient tradition with modern application, making the Jewish ethos accessible to all. Consider a modern example. Rachel, a single mother working a low-paying job, feels trapped by financial struggles. Inspired by the money code, she studies the Torah online, absorbing its emphasis on diligence and generosity. She adopts the Jewish mindset of being chosen for success, setting ambitious goals to start a small catering business. By aligning her actions with Torah principles, working hard, saving wisely, and giving to charity, she grows her business, eventually employing others and achieving financial stability. Rachel's story mirrors the patriarchs, showing how tradition can transform lives today. Charles closes the chapter with a warning: tradition requires action. The Tanakh cautions, when people discover they're on the wrong road, don't they turn back? Clinging to outdated habits or negative beliefs about money keeps you stuck. By embracing Jewish traditions, valuing education, pursuing high-income paths, and seeing wealth as a divine gift, you can rewrite your financial story. Chapter 3. Work, the engine of prosperity. Imagine a bustling marketplace in ancient Jerusalem, where merchants barter, craftsmen shape their wares, and innovators dream of new ventures. At the heart of this vibrant scene is a simple truth. Work is the engine that powers prosperity. In Chapter 3, Work, the Engine of Prosperity of the Money Code, Become a Millionaire with the Ancient Jewish Code, HW. Charles reveals how Jewish tradition elevates work as a sacred act, a pathway to wealth, and a partnership with the divine. The Tanakh declares, "Mine is the silver, and mine the gold, saith the Lord of hosts," and the Talmud decodes this with practical advice. Let him engage much in business and deal honestly. This chapter is a call to action, urging us to harness the power of diligent, creative work to build lasting abundance. Let's explore its principles, examples, and transformative potential. Charles begins by contrasting two paths, the diligent, who rule, and the lazy, who face forced labor. As the Tanakh states, the diligent will rule, while the lazy will be put to forced labor. Jews, he notes, often choose self-directed work, entrepreneurship, invention, or investment over being employees. This mindset stems from a cultural legacy of ingenuity. As Jewish Austro-Hungarian journalist Theodor Herzl observed, the Jews had long been all along the most ingenious entrepreneurs. Consider the founders of modern giants like Google, Facebook, or Microsoft. Many Jews who started with an idea, hired craftsmen, and built empires. This reflects the Talmud's blessing. Blessed is he who has created all these to serve me. A vision of work where others' skills amplify your vision. The Jewish view of work is rooted in creation itself. The Midrash teaches, all that was created during the 6 days of creation requires improvement. Jews see humans as partners with God, tasked with perfecting an unfinished world. Charles recounts a story from the Midrash Tanshuma. Rabbi Akiva debates Turnus Rufus, arguing that man's acts surpass God's raw creations. Akiva presents sheaves of wheat, God's work, and cakes, man's work, showing that humans transform nature into something greater. This philosophy drives Jewish innovation. Think of Jonas Salk, who developed the polio vaccine, or Levi Strauss, who revolutionized clothing with denim jeans. Work, in this view, isn't just labor. It's creation, a divine mandate to improve the world. Perseverance is a hallmark of Jewish success, and Charles illustrates this with vivid examples. He quotes W. Clement Stone, "Success is achieved and maintained by those who try and keep trying." Thomas Edison, though not Jewish, embodies this spirit, failing over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb, learning from each misstep. Similarly, Jewish entrepreneurs like Michael Dell faced setbacks but persisted, building global brands. The Tanakh advises, "In the morning, sow your seed, and don't slack off until evening, for you don't know which sowing will succeed." This means trying new strategies, adjusting prices, changing suppliers, or pivoting business models until success emerges. Focus is another key principle. Charles cites Vilna Jain, an 18th century Jewish scholar, who said the first 3 hours and 59 minutes of work are like stoking a furnace. By the 4th hour, the pot boils. Interruptions, like taking the pot off the fire, force you to start over. Imagine a Jewish software developer coding for hours, uninterrupted, solving a complex problem. This disciplined focus contrasts with fragmented multitasking, which dilutes results. The Tanakh warns, oppression can make a wise man stupid, suggesting that distractions and external pressures undermine productivity. Jews prioritize goals over fleeting pleasures, as happiness comes from achievement, not indulgence. The thoughts of the wise are in the house of mourning, but the thoughts of fools are in the house of pleasure. Charles challenges popular misconceptions, like the law of attraction, which claims thoughts alone can create wealth. The Tanakh is blunt. In all work there is profit, but mere talk produces only poverty. He quotes Maimonides, who warns against relying on charity or divine intervention without effort. Whomsoever does no work, but rather be sustained from charity, defames the Lord's name. Work is the bridge between vision and reality. Consider a Jewish real estate developer who spends years planning a project, securing funding, and overseeing construction. Their wealth comes from action, not affirmations. Jews also choose work strategically, favoring high-income careers or entrepreneurship. Charles lists top-paying roles like surgeons, $219,770, or CEOs, $167,280, noting that Jews often pursue these paths, while many non-Jews settle for low-paying jobs, hoping for promotions. The Talmud advises learning a clean and easy craft, but trusting God for ultimate success. This balance is key. Work diligently, but recognize divine blessing. As the Tanakh says, God is giving you the power to get wealth. For example, Ronald Perelman, a billionaire who observes the Sabbath, attributes his $12 billion fortune to disciplined work and faith. The chapter emphasizes enjoying your work. The Talmud contrasts a perfumer, whose trade is pleasant, with a tanner, whose work is grueling. Charles quotes Dale Carnegie, "People rarely succeed unless they have fun in what they are doing." Imagine a Jewish film producer, passionate about storytelling, creating blockbusters at Paramount Pictures. Loving your craft fuels excellence. As John Ruskin said, "When love and skill work together, expect a masterpiece." The Take Action section offers 3 paths to apply these principles. Option 1. Pursue a high-paying career with resources like Monster.com to find roles. Option 2. Create a company or product using Entrepreneur.com for ideas and Fundable.com for funding. Option 3. Become an investor, exploring platforms like AngelsDen.com or Zillow.com for real estate. These steps make the Jewish approach to work actionable for anyone. Let's bring this to life with a modern example. Meet David, a retail worker frustrated by stagnant wages. Inspired by the money code, he decides to start a tech company. He brainstorms an app idea, studies coding nightly, and persists through early failures, tweaking his prototype. David hires developers from elance.com, focusing uninterruptedly on his vision. Within 2 years, his app gains traction, attracting investors via Kickstarter.com. His success mirrors Jewish entrepreneurs like eBay's Pierre Omidyar, who built wealth through persistent, creative work. Charles closes with a reminder: wealth requires planning and dedication. The Tanakh warns, "The plans of the diligent lead only to abundance, but all who rush in arrive only at want." Like ants laboring in summer to thrive in winter, Jews work intensely for a season to secure lasting prosperity. This disciplined approach, rooted in tradition, is the engine of their success. Chapter 4. Investing, Multiplying Wealth Wisely. To 3 pouches, 1 for land, 1 for trade goods, and 1 kept as cash. This simple act of diversification, rooted in timeless wisdom, is the key to multiplying wealth. In Chapter 4, Investing, Multiplying Wealth Wisely of the Money Code, become a millionaire with the ancient Jewish code, HW. Charles unveils how Jewish financial strategies, drawn from sacred texts like the Tanakh and Talmud, transform modest earnings into lasting prosperity. The Tanakh advises, "Bind up the money in thy hand," which the Talmud decodes as a call to diversify investments. Let him divide his money into 3 parts: 1/3 in land, 1/3 in merchandise, and 1/3 in cash. This chapter is a masterclass in making your money work for you, offering a blueprint anyone can follow to build wealth wisely. Let's explore its principles, examples, and practical steps. Charles begins by emphasizing that investing is where wealth grows exponentially. Earning money through work is essential, but without investing, you're merely treading water. The Tanakh warns against squandering resources. The wise have wealth and luxury, but fools spend whatever they get. Jews, Charles notes, excel at investing due to a cultural emphasis on frugality and foresight. Sociologist Lisa Keister's study, cited in the book, found that American Jews accumulate wealth faster than other groups because they invest early in high-risk, high-return assets like stocks and bonds, while others favor low-yield options like CDs or savings accounts. Imagine a Jewish family in New York saving diligently and channeling their funds into a diversified stock portfolio, watching their wealth grow over decades. This disciplined approach, rooted in tradition, sets them apart. Diversification is the cornerstone of Jewish investing. The Talmud's rule of splitting wealth into thirds, land, merchandise, and cash, ensures stability. Land provides long-term value, like real estate holdings. Merchandise, such as business inventory, generates income, and cash offers liquidity for opportunities or emergencies. The Tithe reinforces this. Divide your investments among many places, for you do not know what risks might lie ahead. Charles likens this to not putting all your eggs in one basket. Consider a modern Jewish investor, like Warren Buffett's mentor Benjamin Graham, a Jewish financial guru whose diversified strategies in stocks and bonds built enduring wealth. Graham's approach, spreading investments across industries, mirrors the Talmud's wisdom, minimizing risk while maximizing returns. Planning and research are non-negotiable. The Tithe cautions, without deliberation, plans go wrong. Charles stresses that successful investing requires understanding your options. He lists a range of investment vehicles: stocks, preferred stocks, closed-end funds, annuities, American depository receipts, ADRs, unit investment trusts, UITs, treasuries, corporate bonds, and real estate, including real estate investment trusts, REITs. Each offers unique benefits: stocks for growth, bonds for stability, real estate for passive income. Picture a Jewish entrepreneur researching REITs on Zillow.com, analyzing market trends before buying shares in commercial properties. This meticulous preparation, Charles argues, separates the wise from the reckless. Frugality is the fuel for investing. The Talmud advises, be prudent in business, for the world deceives. Jews prioritize saving over spending, avoiding the consumerism that traps others. Charles contrasts this with those who buy luxury cars or designer clothes, draining their capital. The Tanakha's wisdom is clear. There is precious treasure and oil in the house of the wise, but a fool swallows it up. For example, a Jewish software engineer might live modestly, saving 20% of their income to invest in a tech startup via angelsden.com, turning savings into a fortune. This discipline reflects the Jewish ethos of delayed gratification for long-term gain. Charles also explores international banking as a wealth protection strategy. He lists low-tax jurisdictions like Monaco, the Cayman Islands, and Switzerland, where Jews have historically safeguarded assets. The Tanakha's call to bind up the money suggests securing wealth against economic or political instability. Imagine a Jewish business owner opening an offshore account through low-tax.net, shielding their profits from high taxes or currency fluctuations. This global perspective, Charles notes, amplifies wealth-building potential. The chapter addresses common pitfalls, like chasing get-rich-quick schemes. The Tanakh warns, wealth obtained by fraud dwindles. Charles emphasizes ethical investing, aligning with Jewish values of honesty. Let him deal honestly. Consider the cautionary tale of a speculator who pours money into a hyped-up stock, only to lose everything when it crashes. In contrast, a Jewish investor, guided by research and patience, buys into stable companies like Apple or Amazon, reaping steady gains. This disciplined approach, Charles argues, ensures sustainable wealth. Historical and modern examples bring these principles to life. Charles references the Rothschild family, Jewish bankers who built a financial dynasty through diversified investments in banking, real estate, and industry. Their success, spanning centuries, reflects the Talmud's diversification rule. Today, Jewish investors like George Soros, with a $24 billion fortune, continue this legacy, navigating global markets with strategic precision. Soros's ability to anticipate economic shifts, such as his famous bet against the British pound, showcases the power of informed, diversified investing. The Take Action section offers practical steps to apply these strategies. First, save income using tools like moneysupermarket.com to find high-yield accounts. Second, educate yourself on investing through investopedia.com or morningstar.com. Third, start investing via platforms like saxobank.com or etrade.com. Finally, explore international banking options at lowtax.net. These steps make the Jewish approach accessible, whether you're starting with $100 or $100,000. Let's imagine a modern example. Leah, a teacher with a modest salary, feels her savings are stagnating. Inspired by the money code, she cuts unnecessary expenses, saving $200 monthly. She studies investing on investopedia.com, learning about index funds and REITs. Leah diversifies her savings, half into a stock fund via etrade.com, a quarter into a real estate crowdfunding platform, and a quarter in a high-yield savings account. Over a decade, her investments grow, funding her dream of starting a tutoring business. Leah's story mirrors the Rothschilds' disciplined approach, showing how anyone can multiply wealth wisely. Charles closes with a reminder. Investing isn't gambling. It's a deliberate act of stewardship. The Tithe urges. The plans of the diligent lead only to abundance. Like the Jewish merchant dividing his gold, you must plan, diversify, and act ethically. Wealth doesn't come from hoarding, but from making your money work as hard as you do. Chapter 5. Law. The Order of Prosperity. Imagine a world where chaos reigns, where no rules guide human actions, and prosperity is a fleeting mirage. Now picture a Jewish scholar in ancient Judea, meticulously studying the Torah, finding in its laws a blueprint for order, justice, and abundance. In Chapter 5, Law, the Order of Prosperity of the Money Code, become a millionaire with the ancient Jewish code, HW. Charles reveals how Jewish tradition views adherence to divine and universal laws as the bedrock of wealth and success. The Tithe declares, "Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In toil shalt thou eat of it," which the Talmud decodes as a call to discern the natural laws governing life. This chapter is a journey into the power of order, showing how living by these laws, ethical, spiritual, and practical, unlocks lasting prosperity. Let's explore its principles, examples, and transformative potential. Charles begins by asserting that order underpins all success. Just as gravity governs the physical world, universal laws shape human outcomes. The Talmud teaches that God created the world with laws for all humanity, known as the 7 Noahide laws, which include acknowledging one God, respecting human life, and maintaining justice. For non-Jews, following these laws brings blessings, as the Tithe promises. Where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he. For Jews, the 613 commandments, mitzvot, of the Torah provide a detailed code, covering everything from worship to business ethics. These laws, Charles argues, create a framework where prosperity thrives. A key example is the Torah's emphasis on ethical business practices. The Tithe commands, "You shall not cheat your fellow," Leviticus 19 verse 13, and insists on paying workers promptly. The wages of a hired worker shall not remain with you all night until the morning. Honesty is non-negotiable, as the Talmud warns. The first question a person is asked in the next world is, "Did you deal honestly?" Charles illustrates this with a story from the Talmud. A Jewish merchant ensures fair scales in his shop, knowing that wealth gotten by dishonesty shall be diminished. Picture this merchant, trusted by his community, his business flourishing because his integrity attracts loyal customers. This principle applies today. Consider a Jewish CEO who prioritizes transparent accounting, building a company valued for its trustworthiness, like Berkshire Hathaway under Warren Buffett, whose Jewish mentor, Benjamin Graham, emphasized ethical investing. The Sabbath, a cornerstone of Jewish law, is another powerful example. The Tithe promises, "If you call the Sabbath a delight, then you shall take delight in the Lord, and I will make you ride on the heights of the earth." Isaiah 58 verses 13 to 14. The Talmud adds that observing the Sabbath brings blessings, while working on it yields no lasting gain. Charles explains that the Sabbath isn't just about rest. It's about trust in God's provision, stepping away from toil to focus on family, study, and spirituality. Imagine a Jewish shopkeeper closing their store every Saturday, despite competitors staying open. Their faith in this law brings unexpected rewards. Perhaps a refreshed mind sparks a new business idea, or community goodwill strengthens their customer base. Even non-Jews, Charles notes, benefit from a weekly rest, as modern studies show downtime boosts productivity. Think of a tech worker taking Sundays off to recharge, returning Monday with sharper focus, echoing the Sabbath's wisdom. The Noahide laws offer a universal framework for prosperity. Charles highlights their simplicity yet profundity. Don't worship idols, don't murder, don't steal, don't commit sexual immorality, don't blaspheme, don't eat flesh from living animals, and establish courts of justice. These laws align humanity with divine order, as the Talmud suggests. All the world was created for the sake of the Torah. For example, A non-Jewish entrepreneur who upholds justice by resolving disputes fairly builds a reputation that attracts investors. Charles cites Deuteronomy 28 verse 1, promising that obedience to God's laws elevates you high above all the nations on earth, a principle seen in Jewish communities that thrive through ethical conduct. The Torah's business laws provide practical guidance. Charles lists commandments like avoiding false weights and ensuring prompt payment to workers. These rules foster trust, essential for commerce. Picture a Jewish contractor paying subcontractors on time, earning their loyalty and securing better deals. The Talmud warns against overworking employees, as he who hires a worker must act toward him as God acts toward his creatures. This ethical approach contrasts with cutthroat practices that erode long-term success. A modern example is a Jewish-owned bakery that treats employees fairly, resulting in low turnover and a loyal workforce, boosting profits. Charles emphasizes that these laws aren't burdens, but pathways to blessings. The Tanakh states, "The Lord commanded us to obey all these decrees, that it may go well with us." He contrasts this with those who ignore order, chasing wealth through deceit or shortcuts, only to face ruin. The Talmud's caution, "He who sins against the Torah will in the end lack wealth," rings true. Think of a shady businessman whose fraud unravels, losing everything, versus a Jewish philanthropist like Michael Bloomberg, whose ethical wealth building supports global causes. The Take Action section offers practical steps to align with these laws. First, obey the Noahide laws, exploring resources like noahide.org to understand their application. Second, study the Torah's business laws through platforms like jewfaq.org or Chabad.org. These steps make the Jewish framework accessible, whether you're religious or secular. Charles encourages applying these principles universally. Honesty, fairness, and rest are timeless. Consider a modern example. Sarah, a small business owner struggling with cash flow, reads the money code and adopts its principles. She ensures prompt payments to suppliers, earning their trust and better terms. Sarah observes a weekly rest day, finding it rejuvenates her creativity, leading to a new marketing strategy. By aligning with ethical laws, like avoiding deceptive advertising, her business gains a loyal customer base, mirroring the Talmud's promise of prosperity through integrity. Sarah's success reflects the Jewish merchants of old, proving these laws work today. Charles closes with a reminder, prosperity flows from order. The Tanakh urges, let everything be done decently and in order. Like a Jewish scholar studying Torah to guide his life, you must align with laws, divine, ethical, and practical. Ignoring them leads to chaos. Embracing them builds a foundation for wealth. Chapter 6. Tithe, the partnership with divinity. Imagine a Jewish farmer in ancient Israel, standing in his field, setting aside a tenth of his harvest for the poor, his heart full of trust that this act will bring blessings. This simple gesture, rooted in faith, is more than charity. It's a partnership with the divine. In Chapter 6, Tithe, the partnership with divinity of the money code. Become a millionaire with the ancient Jewish code, HW. Charles unveils tithing as a cornerstone of Jewish wealth building, a practice that aligns human effort with spiritual abundance. The Tanakh commands, "Thou shalt surely tithe," and the Talmud promises, "Tithe so that you will become rich." This chapter is a call to see giving not as loss, but as an investment in prosperity, a sacred act anyone can embrace. Let's explore its principles, examples, and life-changing potential. Charles begins by explaining tithing, or Maser Kezafim, the Jewish practice of giving at least 10% of one's income to the poor. Rooted in the Torah, tithing is modeled by patriarchs like Abraham, who gave a tenth of his spoils to Melchizedek, Genesis 14 verse 20, and Jacob, who vowed, "Of all that you give me, I will set aside a tenth for you." These acts weren't grudging. They were expressions of gratitude and faith. The Tanakh frames tithing as a divine mandate. All the tithe is the Lord's. It is holy unto the Lord. Charles emphasizes that tithing isn't just for Jews. Its universal principle invites all to participate in a cycle of giving and receiving. The Talmud boldly claims that tithing leads to wealth, a promise echoed in the Tanakh. "Test me with this," says the Lord, "if I will not open for you the windows of heaven and pour out for you a blessing." Charles notes this is the only area where God invites testing, suggesting tithing's unique power. He cites John D. Rockefeller, a Christian who tithed his entire life, amassing a $300 billion fortune in today's dollars. Rockefeller reportedly said, "I never would have been able to tithe the first $1 million I ever made if I had not tithed my first salary, which was $1.50 per week." His story illustrates the Jewish principle: start tithing early, even with little, and blessings follow. Picture a young Jewish shopkeeper in 19th century Europe giving 10% of his meager earnings to a local scholar, only to see his business grow as customers flock to his generosity. Tithing requires precision, Charles explains. The Talmud advises giving between 10% and 20% of income, with 10% as the minimum for Maser Kezefim. Recipients must be carefully chosen: Torah scholars, the poor, or institutions like synagogues or health organizations. The Tanakh warns against neglecting the needy. Honor the Lord with your wealth. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing. Charles shares a Talmudic story of a man who tithed faithfully, supporting a struggling scholar, only to receive unexpected profits when a trade deal succeeded. This reflects the Jewish belief that tithing opens divine channels of abundance. As the Talmud states, "Give charity to the poor, and you will not lack." The spiritual dimension of tithing is profound. Charles describes it as a partnership with God, acknowledging that all wealth comes from the divine. The Tanakh says, "The silver is mine, and the gold is mine, declares the Lord." By giving a portion back, you align with this truth, trusting God to multiply what remains. Imagine a Jewish family in modern Jerusalem setting aside 10% of their income for a local orphanage, believing their act invites divine favor. This faith contrasts with a scarcity mindset that hoards every penny, fearing loss. The Talmud assures, "He who gives charity, his wealth will increase," a principle seen in Jewish philanthropists like the Rothschilds, whose giving fueled their financial dynasty. Charles addresses skepticism about tithing's financial benefits. Some might see it as illogical. How does giving away money make you richer? Yet, he argues, tithing shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance, fostering gratitude and discipline. The Tanakh promise, "Bring the whole tithe, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven," suggests a spiritual law at work. Consider a modern example. A Jewish doctor donates 10% of her income to a health clinic, finding that her practice grows as patients refer others, drawn by her generosity. This mirrors the Talmud's teaching: the more you give, the more you receive. The chapter also explores tithing's practical side. Charles advises calculating your tithe precisely, using tools like pidon.com to track income and donations. The Talmud emphasizes giving to the right recipients, such as those who study Torah or serve the community. For example, supporting a yeshiva ensures the perpetuation of wisdom, which benefits society. Charles suggests giving to charities like razoo.com, which connect donors with worthy causes. This structured approach ensures tithing is intentional, not haphazard. Historical and modern examples abound. Charles cites Rabbi Akiva, who lived in poverty but tithed faithfully, later becoming a wealthy scholar whose teachings shaped Judaism. Today, Jewish billionaires like Sheldon Adelson, who donated millions to education and health, reflect this tradition. Adelson's wealth grew alongside his giving, aligning with the Talmud's promise. Even non-Jews, like Oprah Winfrey, who credits her success to generous giving, embody this principle, showing its universal appeal. The Take Action section provides clear steps. Calculate your Maser Kezefim using pidon.com, give to charities via razoo.com, and support Torah scholars or community institutions. These steps make tithing accessible, whether you're religious or secular, starting with $1 or $1,000. Consider a modern example. David, a graphic designer with a modest income, feels stretched thin financially. Inspired by the money code, he commits to tithing 10% of his earnings, starting with $50 a month to a local food bank. He uses pidon.com to track his giving, ensuring accuracy. Over time, David notices unexpected opportunities, a new client, a raise, boosting his income. His story echoes Abraham's, showing that tithing, even in small amounts, invites abundance. As the Talmud says, "Give a tenth, and you will become rich. Charles closes with a powerful reminder. Tithing is a leap of faith that transforms your relationship with money. The Tanakh urges, give, and it will be given to you. Like the Jewish farmer setting aside his harvest, you must trust that giving opens divine storehouses. Tithing isn't about losing wealth. It's about gaining a life of purpose and prosperity. Chapter 7. Charity, the ultimate wealth multiplier. Charles begins by elevating tzedakah above all other commandments, citing the Talmud. Charity is equal to all the other commandments combined. Unlike tithing, which involves giving a fixed 10% of income, tzedakah is broader, encompassing any act of righteousness, from financial gifts to personal kindness. The Tanakh promises, he who is kind to the poor is lending to Adonai, and he will repay him. This divine repayment isn't just spiritual, it's material. Charles notes that Jews, despite being 2% of the U.S. population, account for 30% of its top donors, with families like the Rothschilds leading the way. Their generosity, he argues, fuels their enduring wealth, aligning with the Talmud's assurance. Give charity, and your wealth will increase. The Talmud outlines 8 levels of tzedakah, each more virtuous than the last. The highest is enabling self-reliance, helping someone start a business or find a job, freeing them from dependency. Charles illustrates this with a story from the Talmud about Abba Hilkiah, who gave food directly to the poor, ensuring immediate relief. Imagine a Jewish merchant in medieval Europe teaching a struggling neighbor to trade spices, empowering them to thrive. This principle resonates today. Consider a Jewish philanthropist funding a coding boot camp for underprivileged youth, transforming lives and communities. The Tanakh reinforces this. The generous will themselves be blessed, for they share their food with the poor. Charity's power lies in its ability to break the cycle of poverty. The Talmud states, charity saves from death, suggesting it protects both giver and receiver. Charles shares the story of a poor Jew who gave his last coin to a beggar, only to find a hidden treasure soon after. This echoes the Tanakh's promise. Whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will repay him for his deed. Picture a modern Jewish business owner donating to a homeless shelter, then securing a major contract, their generosity seemingly opening unseen doors. The Talmud's logic is clear. Giving creates a spiritual flow, inviting abundance back to the giver. Charles emphasizes that tzedakah is a daily practice, not a rare event. Jews keep a pushka, a charity box, in their homes, dropping in coins regularly. This habit cultivates generosity, as the Talmud advises, give charity every day. Imagine a Jewish child learning to place a penny in the pushka before dinner, internalizing giving as a way of life. Charles cites Maimonides, who said, "No one ever became poor by giving charity." This mindset contrasts with those who hoard wealth, fearing loss, missing the Talmud's wisdom. The more you give, the more you receive. The chapter addresses skepticism about charity's financial benefits. How can giving away money lead to more? Charles argues that tzedakah shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance, fostering gratitude and trust. The Tanakh's bold claim, "He who gives to the poor will lack nothing," suggests a spiritual law at work. Historical examples abound. The Rothschilds, whose charitable trusts supported Jewish communities worldwide, saw their banking empire grow alongside their giving. Modern Jewish philanthropists like Michael Dell, who funds education and health initiatives, reflect this legacy, their wealth expanding as they give. Charity also builds community trust, enhancing business success. Charles describes a Jewish store owner who feeds the hungry, earning customer loyalty that boosts sales. The Talmud notes, charity brings peace between Israel and their Father in heaven, suggesting giving fosters harmony that attracts prosperity. Think of a Jewish restaurateur donating meals to a local shelter, their kindness drawing media attention and new patrons. This aligns with the Tanakh's promise. Blessed is the one who considers the poor. In the day of trouble, the Lord delivers him. The Take Action section offers practical steps. Collect money in a pushka and give to the poor through platforms like homelessshelterdirectory.org. These steps make tzedakah accessible, whether you give $1 or 1,000. Charles encourages immediate action, citing the Talmud. Do not say, "I will give charity when I have more," for you may not have it later. Consider a modern example. Rachel, a freelance writer with a tight budget, feels she can't afford to give. Inspired by the money code, she buys a pushka and donates $10 monthly to a food pantry via homelessshelterdirectory.org. She also volunteers her skills, helping a nonprofit with marketing. Over time, Rachel's network grows, landing her higher-paying clients. Her story mirrors the Talmud's promise, showing that even small acts of tzedakah invite abundance, much like the poor Jew who found treasure after giving his last coin. Charles closes with a profound insight. Charity is the ultimate wealth multiplier because it aligns you with divine purpose. The Tanakh urges, do not withhold good from those to whom it is due. Like the Jewish family filling their pushka, you must give freely, trusting that your generosity will return manifold. Tzedakah isn't just about money. It's about creating a legacy of impact. Conclusion: the power of the money code. The money code is more than a financial guide. It's a call to transform your mindset and actions through ancient wisdom. H.W. Charles distills centuries of Jewish teachings into 7 actionable principles. Pursue wisdom, embrace tradition, work diligently, invest wisely, follow universal laws, tithe faithfully, and give generously. These aren't just Jewish secrets. They're universal truths that anyone can apply. The book's strength lies in its blend of spiritual and practical advice. It challenges us to rethink wealth, not as an end, but as a means to live purposefully, help others, and improve the world. The emphasis on humility, study, perseverance, and ethical conduct resonates universally, while the focus on tithing and charity reframes giving as a wealth-building act. However, the book isn't without flaws. Its heavy reliance on religious texts may feel inaccessible to staunchly secular readers, and some claims, like the guaranteed wealth from tithing, may seem overly prescriptive. Yet, the practical steps, studying wisdom literature, choosing high-income careers, diversifying investments, ground the book in actionable strategies. As you close this audiobook, reflect on this. Wealth isn't just about money. It's about creating a life of impact. The Jewish code teaches that by aligning with wisdom, discipline, and generosity, you can achieve not just financial success, but a legacy of meaning. Start small, read a page of the Talmud, save $1, give a coin to charity, and watch the seeds of prosperity grow.